Today we're going to talk about formulas for perimeter and area of rectangles. You've learned about this in 4th grade, and we're just going to expand on it today. Remember, when we're finding the perimeter of an object, we're finding the distance around an object, like fencing around a yard or a garden, or a frame around a picture. Remember, a good way to remember that what perimeter measures is the rim in the middle of perimeter. We can use a formula to help us with perimeter and area. A formula is an equation that expresses some kind of a math rule. We can use a formula to solve a perimeter problem. So our problem says that Lloyd is planning a rectangular garden that measures 40 feet by 24 feet. He wants to put a fence around it to protect his vegetables from rabbits. How many feet of fencing does he need? Now, I always like for you to draw out what you're solving. So if you think about the rectangle, which that's not a really great one, but we'll deal with it. And the length of our rectangle is going to be 40 feet. And the width of our rectangle is going to be 24 feet. Now he wants to put a fence around the garden to protect his vegetables from those rascally rabbits. So we want to know, how many feet of fencing does he need? So a formula for perimeter of a rectangle is we can take the length plus the width plus the length plus the width. Basically, we're walking around the rectangle and we're adding up the numbers we come to. So if we do that, we're doing 20. No, we're not. We are doing 40 plus 24 plus 40 plus 24. And all we have to do is add that up to find our perimeter. I'm going to use my compatible numbers. I know that 40 plus 40 is 80. And 24 plus 24 is 48. And if I add those together, I know that I have 128 feet of fencing. So my perimeter of my garden, or of Lloyd's garden, is 128 feet. So when he goes to the store, he needs to buy 128 feet of fencing. Another formula you can use for perimeter of a rectangle, since a rectangle has opposite sides that are congruent, is you can do 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So in Lloyd's problem that we just did, we can multiply the length by 2 and the width by 2 and then add those products together. So his length was 40, so we would do 2 times 40. And then the width is 24, so we could do 2 times 24. And that's 80 and 48. So that's basically what we did in the last problem by using our compatible numbers. And so our perimeter is 128 feet. It's just a bit of a shortcut. Remember, when we're finding the area of an object, we're finding the amount of surface on the object. So, like, if we're looking at a garden, we're looking at the area that is planted in the garden, not the fence around it, that's perimeter, but the area of the surface of the garden, excuse me. Or tile on a floor. When we talk about flooring, we're talking about area. Well, going back to Lloyd's problem, not only is he going to do fencing, but Lloyd needs to know how large his garden is so he can order enough mulch for his garden. Now, mulch is used to put inside the garden, to put on the surface of the garden. So we want to know, what is the area of Lloyd's garden? So we can again use a formula for area of a rectangle, which is area equals length times width. A equals L times W, where A equals the area, L equals the length, W equals the width. So using that same problem, if we do 40 times 24, we can find the area of Lloyd's garden. So if I do 40 times 24, 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times 4 is 16, kill it. Area 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 4 is 8. And we add that up. We get a total of 960. Our product is 960. So our area is 960. So the area of Lloyd's garden is 960 square feet. When we talk about area, since we're talking about the surface that it covers, it's measured in square units. It's basically how many squares will fit on that surface. So it's measured in square feet, square inches, whatever measurement you're using at the time. So now I want you to find the area and perimeter of this figure, which seems a little overwhelming. It really looks like two figures that are put together, and that's kind of how we're going to look at it. To start off with perimeter. So if I've got the 4 meters right here, that's the outside, and I walk around here and there's 10, but then there's nothing marked right here. But then I have my 2 meters right there and my other 2 meters, and then nothing marked for this bottom piece. But I can use what I have to figure out what those missing pieces are. I know this side is 4, so this side has to be 4. But remember, when we talk about perimeter, we're just talking about the outside, so I just want this piece here. Well, I know that this piece has to be 2 meters because this is 2 meters. So 2 meters, if this is 2 meters, what does this have to be in order for the whole thing to equal 4? It has to be 2. So I'm going to fill in my blank spot with a 2. And then this bottom part, well, if this top line of my square is 2 meters, then the bottom line has to be 2. And I know if this top line of my rectangle is 10 meters, then this has to be 10 meters. Well, 10 plus 2 is 12 meters. So when I go to add this up, let's see, I've got 3 2's, which is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. 20 plus 12 is 32. So the perimeter of my figure is 32 meters. Now we don't use square meters here because we're talking about perimeter, so it's just a straight line around the outside. To find the area, we can break the figure into a square and a rectangle. So let's start by finding the area of a rectangle. Area is length times width, so we're going to do 10 times 4, which is 40. And then for an area of a square, the formula for an area of a square is side times side, which is really the same as length times width. We just say side times side because they're the same measurement. Area of a square are going to have the same measurement for their sides. So we're going to do 2 times 2, which is 4. So then I add these together, 40 plus 4, and I have the area of my whole entire figure, because 40 was my area of my rectangle, 4 square meters was my area of my square. When I add those together, I get 44, and again, square meters is our label because we're dealing in meters. And you can write square meters with an exponent of 2 because an exponent of 2 means squared. So you can also write it like that. Square meters can also look like this. So you might see it that way or written out. All right, y'all have done a great job today. I'm excited to see you in class on Monday.